If you're running a marathon, you don't want to focus on, I got to run 20 plus miles. Still, you focus on just getting from one pole to the next. If you don't know what you're aiming for, it's hard to really pick a strategy that makes sense.
You have a gut feeling about your property manager, don't wait a year, fire them now and find another one. If you don't surround yourself with people that think that bigger picture, all you get are the sound bites from social media.
I think there's a balance. It's like the 0 to 1. You want to be yourself.
I am sitting down with Nico Garcia and Anna Bialek. They are the hosts of the Agent to Investor podcast. And also we are all members of Coach Carson's rental property mastery community. We are just 2 days removed at the time of this recording from going to his weekend retreat in Charlotte, North Carolina. And we thought it would be a great excuse to sit down and talk about what we've learned. And for those who might not know me, I am Aaron Amin. I live here in Houston, Texas. My wife and I own 8 rental properties across 3 states. And our big project, which I'm sure we'll talk about a little bit, is we're building a memory care mansion assisted living home here in Houston in 2025. We talked a lot about goals at this retreat, so I figured I'd just drop my little quick intro there, and then maybe you guys give a quick intro to the audience too.
Sure. Ladies first.
Oh, thank you. So I'm Anna Bialek. I'm a Northern Virginia realtor by trade, and then I'm also a real estate investor. My husband, Brian, and I own 11 doors altogether, mostly out of state. I always insure myself with mostly out of state because we do have some Virginia properties, but they're like 4 hours away, so they might as well be in a different state.
That's right. And my name is Nico Garcia. I am also a real estate agent here locally in Maryland, right outside of DC, Montgomery County, Prince George's County. I am also an investor, currently investing locally. Got 2 single family rentals, long-term rentals. Currently working on a fix and flip, and Jessica, my fiance, and I just bought a house hack, which I'm sure we'll also go into in a little bit. But Aaron, I'm glad we're doing this. I'm fired up after this weekend. It was awesome. So glad to meet people in person. We're all in this online community, and we talk through Zooms and things like that. But it was great to, just chat and talk about things that weren't necessarily real estate related. So I'm glad we're doing this.
Yeah, there was an NBA basketball game. There were lunches, happy hours, lots of social time. And it was just so nice because, like you said, we're always talking about real estate. Whenever we get on calls, it's always really focused, usually around 1, maybe 2 topics. And it was just so cool to get to know people on a different level. Like even just telling jokes and having some laughs and like kind of lowering the walls a little bit, it really strengthens relationships. And I think Coach Carson in particular, his community, everyone is very like-minded. I think the type of person that enters there, they're all usually at a relatively similar spot in their journey, very similar mindset, and people were really bought into the experience. And I think one of the first threads I'd love to pull on, and this can probably go for a little bit, is what was different about this event than other in-person events that you've attended?
Ooh. I mean, I know we've gone to like BPCon and things like that, which are significantly larger for me personally, and those are intimidating. I'm an introvert by nature, so most people don't believe me, but I don't draw energy from people most of the time. So a lot of those bigger events, it feels very, I don't know, what's unpersonal. What's the opposite of personal? You're just a number when it's something that large. And like you were saying, in this community, everyone was so open and engaging. There's a good chance you've at least seen their name on a call or have some familiarity with them. And like you said, it's a lot of these bigger meetups that I've been to, everyone has different agendas, different perspectives of what they consider success with real estate investing. And this group, like you said, was very much more like-minded because they were drawn in by Coach Carson and by his small and mighty philosophy. So it felt a lot more communal and a lot easier for even an introvert like me to not be completely exhausted at the end of the event, which is very unusual.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, for me, similar to Anna, it was very personable, and I think that comes from, Coach's, background and who he lets come into the community. So for those of you who don't know Chad Carson, it's, he's the author for 2 Bigger Pockets books, The Small and Mighty. I see it right behind Aaron. And it's all about the mindset of, instead of scaling to thousands of doors, having a portfolio of real estate rental properties that are going to sustain your lifestyle. And that really resonated with me, resonated with Anna, I'm sure, as well with Aaron. And that kind of attracts like-minded people where, we don't need to get these huge portfolios. We're all just trying to learn off of one another. And I guess what was different is it was very intentional. We had little breakout sessions and we talked about, some of our challenges that we're going through, and everybody comes from different markets. Aaron's in the Houston market, I'm in the Maryland, Anna's in Virginia, but people were coming from all over California and things like that. And it was just really interesting to see that some people were having the same challenges that I had here in my market, and they were thousands of miles away. So long story short, the intention, everybody was there for a purpose. Everybody has a good a buy-in in terms of what they're trying to accomplish this 2025. I like that we started it. We scheduled this for the beginning of the year so we can have our quarterly and yearly goals. But I found it very, very personal, and that's all credit to Chad, because he's very involved in this community. Anna and I could just text him or call him, anytime. So that's what I really liked about this session.
Yeah, I actually want to. Oh, sorry, I was going to piggyback on that, because Chad actually said he spent a lot of time deciding who was going to be where. I'm sure he had help from Kelly, but deciding who was going to go where. He's so involved, which a lot of people join these coaching programs and it's a face, and they never see them, or they see them once a month for a training. And then there's coaches beneath them that deal with the masses. And there is some of that, but Chad is so involved. He can sit down if you've engaged with him. And he even said he took the time to carefully think of okay, what tables am I going to put together? Who am I going to put where? Because they may benefit from things from each other. I think that probably alone is probably one of the rarest things you'll find in these kinds of things, to have a leader that has that much skin in the game and is so dedicated and I guess committed to making sure everyone gets something out of it.
Yeah, it's so true. The culture he really sets from the top down. Mm-hmm. And he goes by Coach Carson, and that word coach is also very intentional, right? He came up in the sports world. He was on the Clemson, college football team playing Div 1. I believe he was the team captain, if memory serves right.
For 2 years.
So he has always had that culture ingrained in him. But we're not talking about the big macho man football culture. We're talking more about the whiteboards, the planning, the strategy. And then, when I think about his community in particular, he calls himself the head coach, right? But he's also embedded leaders within the community. He has the other assistant coaches. He has people like Kelly, who does so much for him on the back end. And there's also just a lot of leadership from within the group, individual members that are posting and sharing their thoughts and ideas, sharing when they encounter a challenge and what they did to get past it. So this meetup was kind of an embodiment of all that. A lot of the people that are the most engaged in the community were there. And so they were giving a chance to kind of weigh in and give their perspective. And I think what really set this event apart for me, and especially if you think about Coach Carson, he's one of the most humble people you ever meet. So much so that he didn't even book himself a spot speaking at his own event, right? There was there were no speakers. There was no keynote. It was very interactive. And we did a couple different types of things. We had panels. So there were 2 different panels throughout the weekend where it was some of the assistant coaches, and he would more or less interview and ask some different questions, give a chance for them to share their experience, and give the audience a chance to ask questions. And there were a lot of really great discussions that came out of that, because each assistant coach, and there was one other guest, they had a range of experience. So even though the general focus of this group was to build wealth through real estate, to enable your financial freedom, there were 100 different paths that people were taking to get there. So I think that diversity of perspective really helped. So there were those panel type discussions, but then I think what really was the magic and where people probably got the most value was the breakout groups. We had 4 breakout groups across 2 days, and we even rotated. Like you said, they put a ton of intentional thought because they know the members so well. They put people at tables where they felt they would get the most value. And you got to work, for a few minutes at a time on each person's individual situation, where their biggest bottlenecks were. We were workshopping people's goals. So, somebody came in, maybe they knew pretty well what they wanted to do, or maybe they didn't know at all what they wanted to do. But the goal of the entire weekend was for people to walk away with clarity. So I think that was a cool focus, because you couldn't help but get value the way that the event was designed. There was no passive, just kind of sitting in the background. You
Yeah.
didn't have to talk the whole time, but you were certainly going to, get the value out of it and achieve the objective. And I think that's just kind of a testament to the culture and the way it was set up.
Yeah, for sure. And speaking of, the assistant coaches and things like that, Aaron's being very modest. He was one of the coaches, and he was on one of the panels with 3 other individuals, and it was awesome. I think that was really cool. People were asking pretty tough questions sometimes and trying to, learn a little bit more about you and, how you're doing your strategies and things like that. So, yeah, a testament to Coach for picking out great coaches for helping out with not just this event, but also, the community, because, we do things like action teams where Aaron and other people lead, and we talk about our goals throughout the week and our goals throughout the quarter. So I give Aaron a lot of credit, because that's, that's a job on its own.
Thank you. No, I appreciate that. And it means a lot too. I've told Coach this. I've told pretty much everyone in the community. I feel the same way. It's, I'm humbled for the opportunity. I love coaching. It's one of my favorite things to do, is to work with people and help. Anytime people feel stuck, or I run toward that stuff, not away from it. And so I love the opportunity to sit down and hear what people are working on and get a chance to kind of help workshop, or maybe bring a couple different perspectives. And that was the most fun I had, was at the tables, the breakout groups, where we could really dig into individual problems. And we did some fine tuning, and I think it'll be really interesting to see some of the follow through. We're only 2 days out of it now. Usually people are the most excited about this type of thing right when they leave. So I think what's great is that everyone is a member of this community, and there's accountability embedded within the community. Like you said, we have these action teams, which are essentially breakout groups that you stick with for an entire quarter. I run a couple of those, and then there's several other coaches that run other groups, but they're going to continue to take the momentum that we built in this event and carry it through the rest of the quarter, and hopefully through the rest of the year. And so I think that was another piece too, is the connective tissue. Leading into this event, there was a little bit of homework, nothing too arduous, but you had to kind of come with some premeditated idea of what you were working on. But then you also had to come with an open mind to be able to take in all the perspective you got at the event, and then hopefully walk away with something different than what you showed up with. Because I don't think anybody showed up with an absolute crystal clear, I know 100% what I'm doing, and I'm not going to change it no matter what I hear this weekend. That was not the attitude. The attitude was, let's benefit from all these perspectives and use it to strengthen our own goals, so that we come out of this feeling stronger, more prepared, better connected, and just well equipped to tackle those goals. So,
can I ask a question, Aaron? So when we broke into those little breakout sessions, we were all in intentional groups, right? So my group was talking about negotiations and writing offers, because that's something that I feel like I need a little bit of help with, and finding deals and things like that in today's market. I'm just curious to what your guys' groups were and how the discussion went.
Yeah, we had a big range. We had some people that were in their 40s and 50s that were trying to figure out, what's a strategy that maps into a shorter time horizon. That was an interesting topic. We had some younger people that wanted to start off-market operations. So again, just even the variety between those two scenarios is a huge range.
Yeah.
We had a couple people that were interested in alternate strategies. So, I was on the panel at the beginning of the first day, and I started talking about my memory care mansion and residential assisted living. And so we spent some time talking about alternate strategies. That definitely drew some attention. People that were interested that, yes, there's your standard long-term rentals and mid-term rentals and short-term rentals that you hear about. But there was also this other stuff like co-living and sober living, residential assisted living. So there were a few people that were even contemplating pivots in their strategy entirely based on their timeframes. And then there was someone interested in private lending. So how to become a private lender, what is it that you need to do? How do you vet people? So it's a lot of stuff that is taught within the community, but they were able to discuss it live in person and get feedback from the entire group. Yeah. Those are the ones that popped to mind, but there were quite a few different scenarios that came up in our breakouts.
Yeah. And I guess the 2 groups that were outside of the, because there was the first one and the last one were what are your goals? What are your challenges? But then there was the 2 in between. The first one was about finding off deal, trouble finding deal. And I'll say, I guess part of the reason I think we all get along is because we are those, I'll say, go-giver teacher mindsets. We want to teach people how to do this kind of stuff. So my first table, I almost felt I was intentionally put there because Brian and I have had success in finding off-market deals. So others were sitting at the table. They want to invest out of state. They don't know how to find deals. And I was able to provide an example and give, like, because Jonathan was at the table as the lead coach, but I felt more of like the co-captain in that particular regard, which I appreciated because I love that, like giving. I will learn more by teaching others. I mean, that's kind of a mantra, right? Like you teach, but you learn by teaching. So that one was really cool. And then the other one was with Bradley Labrie, and he does like motel remodeling and a lot of construction type stuff. And that was perfect for Brian and I because we are looking into potential land development. So it felt very much catered to what we were looking for and what I know Coach Carson knows that we're doing right now and what we have been successful in doing. So I very much appreciated the give and take and the thoughtfulness of the groups.
Yeah, I don't know what's harder, figuring out where people should sit at a wedding or figuring out where they should sit at the RPM retreat, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, one other observation I had from the breakouts was a lot of people showed up and their first instinct was to talk about tactics, really granular tactics. Like, oh, I want to make this many offers and I want to buy a house that has X cash flow. And they were talking in this kind of real short-term horizon, which I understand because one of the objectives was to set your quarterly goal.
Yeah.
But then I kind of kept trying to prompt people to bring it up a level. Like, what is it that you're actually trying to solve and by what time frame? And I was surprised that most people, I feel like, did not have a real firm answer of that. So like, I understand the idea of you want to buy a rental property and get the snowball rolling. I promote that and support that entirely. But if you don't know what you're aiming for, it's hard to really pick a strategy that makes sense. So I think one of the things I saw people kind of coming to realization of is that the time horizon really drives the strategy that they choose. And so that was where some of that, like, oh, maybe there's a pivot here, or maybe there's a different way to think about it. The time horizon and then the overall goal. Some people can live off of $5,000 a month.
Okay.
And, they don't mind waiting 15 years to build the cash flow stream to do that. Other people were trying to, potentially figure out how to leave their jobs in the next 24 months. Those are completely different problems to solve. Mm-hmm. And I think that is where some of the iteration happened, at least at our tables.
Yeah, I agree. Like putting yourself in a room with other people that are where you want to be is a huge thing. Because I'm sure a lot of these people don't have circles. I think I talked to some that were like, oh, they don't have real estate investment groups where I am. So it's very easy to watch, I'll say, people on social media that do show you the very tactical, like, this is your target. You want to buy 5 houses and get this. And I think it's very difficult for people that don't have a bigger circle that has the bigger mindset to look past that short-term goal. They don't really know what they want or why they want it, or they have some nebulous, like, I want freedom. But that's a very broad term that I think people struggle with articulating, like, what does freedom look like for you in 12 months, in 24 months, in 36? Like, that's very different along each phase. And if you don't surround yourself with people that think that bigger picture, all you get are the sound bites from social media.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, one thing that I thought was pretty cool is Coach Carson's group is for people. It's called Rental Property Mastery. So it's assuming people already have rental properties, and it's not so much like the starter 0 to 1. It's more of 1 to 3 or 3 to 10, or scaling your already existing rental portfolio. And I noticed that the conversation's a little bit different. Anna and I host local meetups, and there's people that are just new, and we love helping people buy their first rental property. We're both agents, and we love doing that as well. But it's a different conversation when we're talking to people that are already doing it. They're already getting their hands dirty, and they understand the ins and outs of owning investment properties. That's another reason why I wanted to bring Jessica, because Jessica, my fiance, is a hairstylist, doesn't know too much about the real estate, but she's learning through me and through these groups. I brought her to BPCon in October, and it was a little overwhelming because there's so many different people on and different topics. But this one, she was like, okay, I kind of understand with these smaller groups and conversation. So that was one thing that I really liked is, not only the intentionality, but also the conversations were a little bit different and a little bit more intentional, because everybody is already up to something, and then is not really looking to kickstart, but it's more looking to either grow or even scale back. We have people that are older, or they're already in Coach Carson calls them harvester stage, where they're looking to maybe cut back a little, maybe sell off a few rental properties and pay off other loans to essentially they can be private money lenders as well. So that was really cool. And I know there was a whole topic about private money lending and a great demonstration for that, which I also find very useful because I'm always looking for private money to help scale my business. And that was really cool. So just the conversation of having people that are already in the business and doing it, and a lot more experience than me, which is great. I always love learning from people with more experience.
Yeah, that's a great point. So, one of the prerequisites to be in the community is typically that you've done at least one deal. There's, I suppose, always exceptions, but there is an application process to get into the community. And one of the hardest things to do when you're building a community is curate a culture where people actually do really fit well together, not only from a personality standpoint, but from an experience, objectives, all that stuff. So I think that's another testament to just being really intentional about who enters the group. And then from who enters the group, there's even another level of like who's going to chalk out an entire weekend to go sit down and hang out and talk about this stuff. So it really did like up level the quality of the conversation in the room and give you a little bit of a more relatable edge as you're in the scaling phase. I do think it is different with beginners versus folks who have a little bit of experience. There's a time and a place for both, and they're both really beautiful, but it is kind of fun to have those kind of different conversations than you would have otherwise. I did want to ask, so the, sorry, Anna, did you have something to say?
No, I was just going to chime in. Yes, I guess I did going to say, I was going to chime in because the other thing that was different about this one, which I appreciated, was his willingness and his openness to allowing significant others to come along that maybe are not necessarily part of the RPM community on a regular basis, but they have some curiosity. They have some surface level knowledge. Some are a little bit more involved, but maybe not part of the group. So I did appreciate that he allowed spouses to come kind of take a peek behind the curtain, because it does make a difference when the person, one of the most important people in your life, is also involved in something that you're so passionate about. So I did appreciate that as well. And I thought that was a difference, that it was open to spouses. And he's not in it for a money grab. So it wasn't like, oh, you got to pay extra if your spouse is coming along. He's never been in that mindset. He really just wants to give back and not like charge people an arm and a leg, because some coaches out there do, and they never show their face. And so I appreciate that very much.
Most people think I'm full of crap when I say that I can operate and grow my portfolio in an average of 20 minutes per day. So instead of asking you to take my word for it, I sat down with my business partner, Nathan, and we ran through our entire 20-minute investor strategy in a free workshop. We go through all the different workflows, software, and tools we use to stay in control of our portfolios so we can focus on what matters most to us. You can watch the entire workshop and download our workflows for free at 20minuteinvestor.com. Again, that's 20minuteinvestor.com. Now back to the show. That's actually exactly where I was going to take this, right? Is that we all had our significant others at this event, and some of them are more real estate inclined than others. But I do think that was a beautiful component of it, as first of all, the fact that, yeah, like you said, it wasn't some outrageously expensive event. It was really accessible and easy to go to. But second is just, having them in the room and kind of watching them, like Nico, you said, you guys went to BPCon, which is a totally different style than this.
Yeah.
So even just like seeing the contrast, and similarly, my wife and I went to a big mastermind international event in September, and it's a group that we both enjoy and that I'm very active in. But the experience was very, very different than staying at the DoubleTree in Charlotte, and they're just different styles. But I wanted to hear from you guys, like, how did your partners, what did they take away? Did they enjoy themselves? What was kind of the bottom line there?
Yeah, it's funny to hear, before me, Jessica, I don't want to speak for her, but she knew very little about real estate and real estate investing. And she's kind of learning vicarious through me as I'm learning about the investing world, because even as an agent, I didn't know too much about the investing world. So this really started in 2023 when we were really looking into it, and we bought one that kind of stumbled across a deal, and essentially I became a landlord. So I'm learning as I'm going. And, but it's really cool to see her. She was like picking up small things. She was like, ARV, that's after repair value, right? So like little small things where a lot of it was a lot, for anybody who's not really in the real estate field or really, doing it day to day. But I can see like little sparks coming up and, me sharing my goals, because it's really our goals with the community. She can understand, okay, Nico's doing this house hack because he wants to do it again, or Nico's looking to buy these properties and fix them up so he can offset some taxes and things like that. So, the more that I was sharing, the more that she was listening and, just, talking, whispering in my ear, oh, okay, like this means that, or this means this. It's pretty cool just in the short time that, I brought her along, and I've also brought her to our local meetups, the Cash Flow Breakfast Club. So, that's probably how I introduced her into the real estate investing world. So I remember the first time I brought her, I think it was, and to her defense, it was talking about creative financing and seller financing. So like the topic of that month was a little intense. And since then, she's learned a lot more just by talking to me and talking to people at these events. So I thought, I'm going to continue bringing her, but it was really, really cool to see the growth.
Yeah. And
Awesome.
I guess with Brian and I, it's a little different because we're both equally engaged in real estate investing. I'm not a spouse that he's dragging along for the ride or vice versa. But we learned a lot from, like I said, with the development, and it reinforced, like, as we were talking about our goals, like him and I have very different personality. We're the yin and yang, and we have different like goals, even quarterly goals. Our goals are very different, but they're both moving towards the same ultimate, like long-term goal, like you were saying, Aaron, about having met, like cast that vision, that future vision. So I'm very much I'm trying to I'm wrangling the people. I'm trying to manage the projects. I'm trying to get things to completion, getting the property managers set up. And he's more of, okay, I need to set up plans for the ADU. I need to do more of the engineering type stuff because that's his swim lane. So it was good. And we got to talk to people. Like he said, wow, it was really nice to actually engage and get more of that one-on-one, because you have your action teams and you talk for like an hour and a half, but you don't shoot the shit, excuse the language, about life outside of what your goals are and things like that. So it was nice to get to know people at a deeper level than just seeing them on a screen.
Yeah.
So I don't know. What about you? What about
how about you?
Is it Andrea? Or is it Andrea? Andrea. Okay.
And it was her birthday during the event, right?
Sure was.
It was. That was probably the funniest part of the event for me was when they very nicely coordinated for the whole group to sing her happy birthday. And Coach Carson started it by saying, we teach a lot about negotiation here, but this is probably one of the better negotiations I've seen. Aaron convinced his wife to come here on her birthday. So we're going to have to sing her happy birthday now. But no, she had a great time and far exceeded the expectations that she had. She didn't have low expectations, to be clear. She just typically is not inclined towards like all day social events. It takes a lot out of her. And especially we have 3 young kids at home here. And she's very heads down on this project we're working on. And so I think she would probably not elect on her own to come to an event like that. But once we got there, we had a great time. And she engaged with the breakout groups and had fun kind of learning about other people. She met a bunch of different people. I think that was where it's hard for her to gear up to get the energy to do that. But when she does it, she's good at it and she's personable and she enjoys meeting other people. And so she made a few new friends that I know she wants to keep in touch with. And, she had a good time all around. She's been to, like I said, another international mastermind, which was really fun, but it was a totally different environment. And it was a lot more like activity driven and really, really pretty tiring, frankly, but also a lot of fun. But she even said she actually preferred this style of event because we were all in one location. It was super easy to get together with people, at any given moment. If you wanted to meet someone in the lobby or go do something, it was all within kind of 5 or 10 minutes. And just very convenient, very low friction. The whole experience from the actual workshops all the way through to the, where you're sleeping and where you're eating. There's a lot of fun stuff to do there. I thought one fun thing to touch on real quick would be like a group of people went to the Hornets game on Friday night. And like there was some actual kind of socializing that really broke free of the conference room and the hotel lobby, right? I think you guys participated in that even a little more than I did, but You guys want to touch on that a bit? How much fun did you guys have?
We didn't make it into the Hornets game, but we came in a little bit late. But we did, socializing, happy hours. We went to some rooftop bars. It was really nice because it was the first time I've been to Charlotte, so downtown Charlotte. So I wanted to, experience the city. Coach Carson also did like morning walks. So before the event started, he did little walks. So it was optional. So anybody who wanted to come could come and check out the city, which was pretty cool. You can see all these big, skyscrapers and things like that. So I enjoyed the non-real estate related activities, I guess, as well.
Yeah, I did. If you listen to our podcast at all, I like. Your wife and I had this whole in-depth conversation about like cult leaders and like bigger thinking, and then just getting to know people, like I said before, like outside of real estate, and then even people that I don't even know how active they are in RPM because I've not seen their name come across. So maybe they're a little quieter, but just getting to know them and their story and their background, that's kind of my jam in general. So I found like you said, it was low friction. And so for, again, the introvert, no wonder your wife and I got along so well. Like, it wasn't exhausting. Most of those events are exhausting for people like us because we have to put forth the energy to try to get to know people. And there was a little bit of familiarity, or at least enough. We knew we had something in common going into this, which I very much appreciated.
Yeah.
Aaron,
100%.
question. So I know you brought up this project and you shared a little bit about it this week, and I'm sure you shared it on your platform as well. But do you mind talking about, because I think it's really cool and it's unique, especially in the real estate space. Do you mind talking about it a little bit and how you guys started and things like that?
Sure. Yeah. I actually wanted to take it towards kind of each of our goals and how those might have evolved coming out of this weekend. So it's a good segue.
Right.
Yeah. So it kind of fits cleanly into 2025. So Andrea and I started this year off with, we knew we wanted to get into residential assisted living. And right before the start of the year, we had made an investment to work with a mentor who helps people build assisted living mansions. So he works with him and his wife run a company that they have their own assisted living mansions in Georgetown, Texas, which is just north of Austin. And so they've already kind of built all the blueprints, and not only on the construction side, like mapped out the process, but they also have all the operations, like what is it like to actually run an assisted living home. It's a very, very difficult thing to do, right? There's a lot of different considerations, all the way from the medical care down to the experience of the residents and everything in between. And so we made that decision heading into 2025 to work with him to build our own assisted living mansion here in the Houston area. So what's really nice about this, I think, especially for our family, is that my wife has always been involved in our rentals. Like we've always made decisions together, but I think I was more, keen to continue to develop in that space. And some of that has played a very important part in the foundation of our portfolio. And I still believe single family rentals will be a part of our portfolio for decades to come. But we kind of had this moment where we realized that this residential assisted living niche, and the more we learned about it, it really connected with something that she was passionate about too. She had her father and both her grandparents had really, really poor end-of-life experiences in these big, smelly facilities, understaffed, overworked. The staff wasn't happy, which then translated to the residents not being happy. Just not a good environment, and it kind of haunted her still to this day. And that was very powerful, right? That's a good way to instill a sense of why. In that we now feel like what we're working on could be part of a solution so that other people don't have to put their loved ones in a situation like that, right? It really stuck with her. It's really something that's bothered her. So this was a interesting way for us to kind of combine our love for real estate, investing. I talk about it's like at the intersection of impact, right? Impact towards society and, providing a much needed service, especially as the population ages. An opportunity, right? So it is a compelling business opportunity. There is a lot of financial upside, but you can really kind of engineer this win-win situation where you're doing something that's meaningful to you and you're serving the community. And of course, the reward is there as well. And so the idea was that would replace, her income, and then hopefully in the future, potentially put me in a position where it can at least replace my salary should I choose to do anything different than what I'm doing right now. That's never been my intention, but we now kind of have a clear line of sight into, maybe a 5-year plan where we could replace both of our incomes. And so that's part of what was fun about talking about this project at the event was what I said earlier about time horizon, right? A lot of people are kind of taking the buy one a year approach, which is an amazing approach, especially if you plan to continue to be W-2. If you know you're going to be, either 1 or 2 W-2 incomes for the next 15 to 20 years, that's an incredible wealth building approach because you can continue to just fuel your salary into these investments year after year. But if you have different circumstances, we have young kids, we really want to have a little more flexibility and freedom while they're still in our house. We're keenly aware of how quickly 18 years flies by.
Yeah.
And we don't want to be locked into, these restrictive kind of W-2 jobs forever. And we would love to have the option to potentially, take, Coach Carson is actually the person who inspired this, right? He did these mini retirements where he would go move, to a different place in the world for a year, 18 months, 2 years, and with their kids, right? And they would have these really unique experiences in their lives that were enabled by, the strategy that he took in real estate. So I think we kind of have a similar vision of what this might be able to do for our family. It's going to be intense. We literally have to buy land, develop it, put all the infrastructure in, and then we have to build a house from the ground up. So there's a lot of different moving pieces, and it's definitely the highest risk project, but the reward is 10 times higher than the additional risk, and the meaning that it has to our family is really great. So I appreciate you asking about that, and I had a lot of fun engaging with conversations, with people who are intrigued by residential assisted living.
Yeah. Because
you don't have to build from the ground up in order to participate in that niche. There's a lot of different strategies. We just so happen to pick the most difficult one.
But that's the cool part about real estate investing, right, Aaron, is you get to, fund a passion project. You guys have a strong why, but also you have somebody that already done it. You're going with a mentor. I think that's the most important part when you're starting off, whichever way you want to go in real estate investing, whether you're fix and flipping, buying rentals, or exactly what you're talking about, the residential assisted living. Not a lot of people have experience with that, and having somebody that kind of hold your hand to through the whole phases, because I think that project takes a year and a half, 2 years to get to completion.
Yeah, probably about 2 years from the time we close on the land, which should be, if all goes as planned, sometime in the spring. About 2 years from that point to complete construction and then open for business, get all the licenses you need, and fill the home to stabilization. So it is not a short-term project. This isn't something you can knock out in a quarter, but it's the same thing we were talking about earlier. Now we have clarity. We know what we're aiming for. So then it becomes really just tactical execution, right? How can we keep reaching the different milestones? Coach called it telephone pole goals, right? If you're running a marathon, you don't want to focus on, oh my God, I got to run 20 plus miles. Still, you focus on just getting from one pole to the next. But the only reason that you can do that is because you're running a marathon. If you didn't even know you were running a marathon, you wouldn't know what to measure against, right? So I think that's where the clarity piece is very important. And now we can just focus on, okay, what's the next obstacle in front of us? What's the next milestone that we need to reach? And then, thankfully we've been able to divide and conquer and, parse out the work. She has stuff that she's really into on the construction and land side. I have stuff I'm really into on the business operations and finance side. And so we're able to just divide and conquer and get after it. But what about you guys? What kind of goals did you enter with? And then how did they maybe evolve throughout the weekend?
Sure. My goals were kind of clear before I went in there. I had, like I said, we bought our first primary residence house hack. So we've been working on that one since November when we purchased it. We actually just moved in 2 weeks ago, but we plan on renting out the basement, midterm rental. So both of these things, house hacking and midterm rental are new to me. So I'm, picking everyone's brain who's doing it. I was actually talking to Emily over the weekend because she does midterm rental house hacking. And I was just looking at her Airbnb, how she's doing her photos and things like that. So kind of just picking everybody's brain. That's the best part of community, is talking to people that are already doing it. So that is, my goal, like this quarter goal. And obviously I want to continue growing the rental portfolio. So if opportunities arise to do a BRRRR project or, find a property where the numbers make sense, I want to continue doing that. But our main goal for this quarter is definitely to get that one ready. We actually have somebody outside doing the exterior walkway now that it's a little bit nicer out. It's been pretty brutally cold here in Maryland, so we weren't able to break ground. And but yeah, we're super excited. That's one that I've talked about on our channel quite a bit, is the house hack and how we eventually found it, because it did take some time. I'm sure the Houston market is kind of similar. It's just not enough homes for sale to meet the demand. So we were looking since June to find a property. We wrote 4 offers and just got outbid on homes that were on the market. It was a little discouraging, as an agent. I always try to set the expectations with my clients, like, hey, we're going to write great offers and we're just not going to win. And that's just, the case of today's housing market. And me as an agent, I know all the tricks and trades to make your offer appealing, and that just wasn't the case. So this property we ended up getting off market, or actually it was a pocket listing. So a pocket listing is, anybody who's in the industry probably knows, but before it goes to the market, a real estate agent, tells other real estate agents about it, and to see if, they can save time and things like that. So long story short, I, was able to get that one under contract and bought below market, believe it or not. But yeah, we are super excited. We're going to continue, and I'm going to update the RPM community. I told a few people at the retreat that I would share some pictures of before and afters, because we did do some remodeling in the basement. But it's looking good. I'm in the process of getting some furniture. So as we're doing the midterm rental, where you need to have it nice and furnished and nice and clean. But yeah, I'm enjoying the journey to get this one up and running.
Awesome.
Okay, so for my goals, for our goals, I think we had a vision already cast, because I will say we all are part of a different group, which is the Cash Flow Breakfast Club. And we had the opportunity, Brian and I had an opportunity to go on a couples retreat where we kind of cast this 3-year vision. So like for me, the quarterly goals, I already have them in mind. I needed to stabilize these portfolios. I need to get these construction projects done. I will say, like, a lot of times we hear the highlight reel of people's like investing journey, and Brian and I are in a not so sexy phase of the investing journey. He feels stuck with the golden handcuffs because we have projects that are running long. We have tenants that are destroying apartments. We're transitioning through property managers, like everything that you hear, all the horror stories that people talk about, like they seem to all have happened at the same time for us. But we have that bigger vision where I feel like if we didn't, we'd be like a lot of investors that hit a wall and they're like, this isn't for me. This is all the terrible things that people talk about. This is why investing sucks. So I think, and I'm speaking for Brian, so hopefully I'm not wrong, but I think for him, it helped kind of lighten that a little bit to see other people that either have been where we are and made it through, or people that are slightly behind us that are having similar issues. And we're kind of like, hey, this is what we just experienced. This is our 2 cents. You have a gut feeling about your property manager. Don't wait a year, fire them now and find another one, because that's what we do. So in that regard, I think it helps strengthen our vision, but and our goals for the quarter and beyond. But I think it was also just for us in the stage where we are right now at this specific moment in time. It was almost a comfort to be around other people that are going through it, that have been through it, to kind of reassure us that we are on the right path, even though it feels really painful right now. And for me personally, it also reminded me that like when, the money's flowing and times are good, that's great. But there's times where you have to tighten the belt. I'm not going to lie. I tend to like to buy stuff. So it was a good reminder in that regard too of like, okay, wait a minute. What is our bigger goal? I need to refocus and I need to relook at the budget, because for the next couple of months, it's going to be tough. And that's okay. Like I can go a month without getting my chiropractor to adjust my back. That's okay. I can survive, because it's worth it in 6 months when we're over this hump. So that was kind of our whole thing, is we learned a lot from people, but it was also that just kind of, it came at the perfect time for us. I will say that.
Yeah, that's awesome. For both of you, right? You mentioned just getting downloads from other people's perspective in the room. just knowing that other people are going through the same thing sometimes is all you really need to be able to weather it. And I think that's the power of community. And then Nico, you said you have 2 new things you're doing. You have the house hack and the midterm, and you found someone who's doing both.
Yeah.
Just to even sit down and have a conversation, not like a scripted or like, oh, hey, let's, find a Zoom meeting 30 minutes 2 weeks from now. It's like you bump into them at breakfast and have a conversation. And that's, one of the other kind of real powers of this type of thing. And same even for us, we're doing a very different type of project than most people there. But we found a couple people that could give us some advice on natural gas pipeline easements and how to release them, just super niche, random obstacle that we're facing, right? And we found 2 people that were able to give us a very specific thing they had gone through. And we acted on that information immediately when we got back and uncovered something that is going to help us in our project. So I think it's just being around other people. And then I think the last thing I kind of want to pull on here that all 3 of us do that I think there was some encouragement for other people to do in the room is share your story, right? Because you can't ever hear other people's perspective if you don't share what you're doing. And so I wonder if maybe there was a good discussion in the first panel about social media and just and not just social media, but sharing in general. Maybe you guys could give some thoughts on what you would say to the rest of the group, I guess.
Yeah, Aaron, this is such a good topic because we can go for hours. But when I first started as a real estate agent, they were always talking about video and putting your face out there and sharing. And it took me 2 years, and it took me a long time to actually do it because I had those limited beliefs. What would people say? What would they think? Will people think less of me? Or just all these things going in your head. And you kind of have to get out of your own way. When I started doing videos, and I look back at them now and it was kind of cringe, but you just kind of have to get started. It's like the 0 to 1. And somebody asked a question during the retreat about that. And she's like, I really am scared and this and that. And I didn't get the chance to reply to her. But I would say, maybe recording yourself and not even posting it and just having it and just getting accustomed to being in front of the camera. Because now, the more I share my story, the more people are relating. Anna's talking about, her problems with property managers and things like that. And, maybe somebody can relate to that. The more you're able to share, and that's one of the main reasons why Anna and I started the podcast, and I'm sure it's similar to you, Aaron, is to continue sharing what's going on. And especially because I was learning so much in the investing world, we want to kind of just teach it. And everything that we're learning, we're sharing and we're teaching it. And I've gotten direct messages. I've gotten text messages about like, hey, that's pretty cool what's going on. Congratulations. Also was talking about, losing out on homes, and people can relate to that. So you want to be authentic, and, it does come with time. So, the more you're doing it, the better you'll become. But I just say start with one, maybe start just recording yourself and showing it to a friend before you post it on Instagram, or show it to somebody you really trust and get maybe a little bit of feedback, because just getting over that initial fear is what's really going to get you to where all 3 of us are now.
100%.
So let's see. For me, so I heard that too. And I was talking to someone actually at breakfast. They were sitting on the other side of us. You were sitting on one side, Aaron. And he also was expressing his concern. And for me, I'll take Nico's advice one step further. I said, if you're on Instagram, you can do this on YouTube, Instagram, or Facebook, do stories. Stories are 15-second clips, 30-second clips. They don't have to be edited. They don't have to be like words popping up. And like when most people see the posts, they see a lot of them are highly edited, or they have all these like things zooming in and out, and it's intimidating. So I was like, start with a story. You don't even have to be like face first. You can like be talking, and maybe you're walking a project and you're like, I'm just walking my project today, because I think a lot of it has to do with mindset. So I would also say keep reading those personal development books also, because a lot of it is that fear of judgment, the fear of rejection, the fear of what people are going to say. And we have to learn to like let go of that and just remember that, we're not for everybody. Not everybody is going to like what we have to say. I'm still struggling with this. And even just last week, I have my opinions of things that are going on in the world. And I've always been very scared to talk about them because I don't want to alienate people. I don't want people to be mean to me or get mad at me. But honestly, like if people are that way towards me because of a way that I think versus coming to me to have a discussion, I probably don't want to work with them anyway. So I'm really doing myself a favor by speaking my truth and sharing my story and letting people self-select themselves out of my life because they probably don't need to be there and I don't need to worry about them being there. So my advice would be like, if you're scared, I would say start with stories. Stories are very like unedited. It's what's going on in your life today. And think about what you like to watch. You like to watch all of these reality TV shows. Why do you think they're so popular? People care that you're walking your dog, as weird as that sounds. People care that, you know, like you went to Costco and there was an egg shortage. Like, and some of the things like that you pepper in along with the real estate investing, people get to know you. They get to like you. They get to trust you. And then when you do mention real estate investing, then they feel comfortable asking you a question because they feel like they know you. So that's my advice. Start with stories. Start simple. Post 1 or 2 stories a day. Start the first one just talking. Maybe the camera's away from you. Then maybe do another one facing you. And find an accountability buddy. Find someone that can challenge you and be like, okay, we're both going to post 1 story today. Because when you tell somebody you're going to do something and they're relying on you to do it, it does spark in a lot of people that sense of like obligation, like, okay, I have to follow through because they're depending on me to do it. So stories, and find at least one person that's willing to do this challenge with you and do like 1 story a day.
I smell a new challenge brewing within RPM with social media. No, but those are really great points, and kind of to parlay off both, right? That I think the fear and anxiety around posting the first video is 100 times more than the 31st video, which you don't even think twice about, right? It's like you have to get past there's that feeling of like, oh my God, I'm going to be judged. My employer's going to fire me. Like everyone's going to think I'm just a capitalist, crazy person, whatever your thoughts may be. Usually once you post that first video and the world does not end, then you can feel a little easier or lighter posting the second video, and then it just gets better and better. And like you said, when you look back and you watch the original first video you ever post, you probably will cringe. I cringe. But that's part of the journey. And I honestly think people respect when somebody puts themselves out there and is actually just taking a shot and just sharing. And if you do it from a place of authenticity, I don't think people are going to really care if you had a weird little fidget or if your eyes darted across the screen. All the stuff that you microanalyze yourself on and judge yourself on, nobody cares.
Yeah.
Nobody cares but you.
Yeah. And you want to be authentic. I think Anna mentioned it. You want to sprinkle real estate in every once in a while. You know, you don't want to be a robot, only real estate. You want to be yourself. You know, I like playing soccer. I like going out and traveling the world. You know, be yourself, but also let people know what you're up to. Let everyone know, hey, this is what I'm doing. I'm touring. You know, it's easy for me because I'm always looking at fix and flips and things like that. So I'm touring a home that's probably a shell or, you know, a hoarder house. And those get a lot of traction. But you know, I think there's a balance. You know, you want to, you know, be yourself, but you also want to sprinkle in some real estate and let people know what you're up to. So, and then one final thing that I'm thinking of, the people that want to see your videos are going to see your videos. The people that don't are not. And you know, now with the scroll and, you know, everything on TikTok and things like that, you know, the people that actually want to spend time to watch your videos will, or your pictures, they will. And the people that don't, won't. So that's one easy thing to think about.
Yeah. And I have one similar final thought, which is, you know, I also think that people should ask themselves why they're inclined. Why are they thinking that they need to post in the first place? Because you might not need to, right? It depends what you're trying to accomplish. If all you're really trying to do is build a relationship with 2 to 3 private lenders that can help you build your portfolio gradually over the next 5 to 10 years, you don't need to start and continue to feed a social media engine full of content, which takes time and energy out of your day to produce. You might just need to text some of your closest friends and ask them, or tell them what you're up to, and ask them if they know anybody that's interested in investing in real estate, right? Like those simple social chain exercises. Social media does not have to be TikTok, right? It can be literally just using some communication platform to communicate with other people. So I think some people were getting really caught in this idea of like, oh, I must start a Instagram. I must post X number of times per week. I must do this, but they couldn't really answer why. And so that was another example of like at the event, I think some people realize like, oh, well, maybe I don't need to. Or maybe this looks different for me than it does for Anna, Nico, and Aaron, who have their own podcasts. Like we have different objectives. We have different things we're trying to share with people. And we have different kind of ways that we're going about our overall journey. So I think that's the comparison trap is probably the true devil of social media, is that everyone feels like they need to be doing as much, if not more, than the person next to them. But you always have to question if the person next to you has anything in common with you, and if they're really on the same path or not, or if you should just chart your own path and whatever feels best.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I also think real estate is very much, or social media is very much like real estate in the regard that it is a long game. You will post something and you may have your mom like it, and that's about it. And you may post again and you may have your sister and your mom like it. And sometimes it just takes time, and people get stuck in that, like, oh, nobody's seen it, nobody's liked it, like, and they keep checking, and it drives them insane. And I will say, put it down, let it go, let it speak for itself. When you have a neighbor say, hey, I saw your video about that house, what happened? Or have someone like send you a DM because they related to a post, like those will come eventually. But just realizing that, just like real estate, it is a long game. It's a long game. You're not going to get instantaneous gratification every time you post something. It may require several time. It may require months and weeks of posting. And the final thought I will say is going back to your why. I feel like your why is the core of everything that we do, whether it's social media, whether it's the text messages, whether it's these meetups, because I didn't like to do social media and talk about myself, but I am so clear in my why now. And I know that it's a tool that I feel like, I agree, some people it's not for them, but I challenge them, like, if they don't know what their why is, and once they crystal clear that why, then I think that's probably the better time to decide, is social media really for me or not, as part of my bigger plan. Because if they don't even know their why, I don't know how they can figure out what's going to work for them or not.
Wonderful point.
For sure.
The end.
The end. Well, I do think I need to at least wrap up here in just a minute, but I had a lot of fun both at the retreat and with this kind of debrief. I love this type of conversation. I'd also love to know, for anyone listening on either of our channels, if you enjoyed this forum, because I would love to do it again sometime soon. But on that note, can you guys share just kind of where people can find you, your podcast, you guys as individuals, and anything else you'd like to sign off with?
Yeah, this was a lot of fun, Aaron. Thanks for setting this up. My name is Nico Garcia, N Garcia Official on all social platforms. And you can talk to Anna and I on the Agent to Investor podcast. We talk about the agent side of real estate investing. It's a lot of fun. We have great guests. Aaron was on our show not too long ago. But also, if you're curious about the RPM, the Rental Property Mastery community, I'll speak for all three of us. We love this community. It's the main reason why we wanted to go out to Charlotte. Coach Carson is a great leader, very genuine, humble guy. And if you want to just sit in on like one of the trainings, reach out to either one of us, and we can, have you come on and see what it's about. But yeah, thank you for setting this up, Aaron, and I'll let you speak, Anna.
So I'm Anna Bialek. You can find me on Instagram mostly under Anna Bialek _realtor, or just Anna Bialek anywhere else. And I will also say, not for now, because I know you got to run, but maybe we can do like follow-up clips. Is like, I want to know, like, what is the one golden nugget that you discovered this weekend that like, wow, I didn't know that, and that's going to really help me. I think Aaron's was about gas lines from what I could take away, but I would love to do a follow-up, and maybe in stories we can do this. I challenge you guys, put it in story. Like, what's the one nugget that you walked away from this weekend that, aside from all the good stuff we talked about, that you're like, holy crap, I didn't know that. That was amazing. That was worth the trip right there.
I love it. And we're doing what's called an open loop, where we're going to leave you guys hanging, and you're going to have to follow us to figure out what our golden nugget was.
Get that.
Well, I'm Aaron Amin. You can find me online, Instagram at Aaron Amin, REI Coach, or on X at Aaron Amin. And I run the Hybrid Real Estate Professional podcast. Depending on where you're listening to this, you might be listening to that right now. So we'll make sure all this stuff is in the show notes. Thank you, Coach Carson, for a wonderful event. All three of us had a blast. And thank you both for your time this morning.
Thank you, Aaron.
Thank you. Thank you for having us. Then if people are local, we each have local real estate meetups in Virginia, Houston, and Maryland. If anyone wants to join, you can message us and we can tell you where they are. The end.
Boom. Thank you for making it to the end of today's episode. As you may know, podcasts are very difficult to grow organically. If you're getting value from today's episode, I'd deeply appreciate if you can take 30 seconds to leave my show a 5-star rating and review. This will go a long way to helping me reach more listeners just like you. Thank you so much in advance.